Welcome to week 5 of your capstone course. My name is Dr. Kay Rainford, and I'd like to do a little introduction to week 5. Your feedback and questions to your instructor are very important. Don't hesitate to contact us if you have questions about the discussion, the assignments, or questions about the feedback that you're getting from instructors or even from other students. Here's my feedback about this particular semester. I'm seeing on the discussion boards that the feedback that you're giving to your peers is more nuanced. For example, you're saying, this approach works well for me. So you're not just looking at individual things, but you're explaining how you approach your writing each week. And the reason that you can do this is because you're now so expert at it that you can teach it to someone else. Fabulous. The other thing is that I'm seeing comments that you say to other students, be careful about your citing. Make sure that you're not getting dinged for plagiarism. And of course, that rule for plagiarism is that if you have a concept that you didn't make up and you have no source to say where it came from, or if you have 5 or more words in a row from a source and you don't have those words in quotes and you don't have a page number for those words, that's the definition of plagiarism. It's taking someone else's work and for whether it's inadvertently or on purpose, using that work as your own. I get more emails and more texts about if you're falling behind, if you're planning to be late a particular week. And I do appreciate that feedback. Quite frankly, you are all doing a heroic job of balancing families and life events, moving, cancer, deaths in your family, injuries. It just goes on and on. You're having a baby, you're changing jobs, you're moving from one place to another. Things happen. I am not fussy about you being late. The only thing that you need to be on time with is providing feedback to your peers. Everything else is, it's okay to be late, no deductions. Ooh, and just one other note, the template that I gave you in week 4 had an error. There's a little in that small graphic, 9.1. It was missing the process 9.6 control resources. So if you're using that graphic in your papers, please correct it. So here's the list of assessments for week 5. In terms of you're looking at the quality management knowledge area, which is all the 8-point-X processes. There are 3 of them. You're looking at all of the risk processes in the chapter 11, and nothing else. You get a little bit of a breather because there is no presentation and there is no Microsoft workshop this week. Yay. So what will you do with all your spare time? Well, the focus this week, relax a little, especially in some cases, this is a holiday week. And if you can get some extra time away, that's great. Risk and quality are not simple knowledge areas, so save some time to work through those. Also, you might want to finish up your project, your MS project assignment this week, or you may want to work on aggregating and revising your week 8 final paper. Let's talk a little bit more about those options. Sometimes you're in a class, and I never know when you started this program. Sometimes I'll find people who started 4 years ago, and they're working with an earlier version of the PMBOK guide. So I like to note that there were changes in the 6th edition. If so, if you took your risk or quality class using the 5th edition, you should be aware of these. The PMBOK Guide 6th edition changed the approach to quality assurance. It went so far as to say, well, we were wrong about the second quality process, and we're replacing quality assurance with managed quality. And it also did make a little bit of a change to the other 2 quality processes. So take a look back through quality. Risk also got a new process. It's in the executing process group, I believe, and it's about implementing contingency plans and risk response strategies. So perhaps when you finish your draft, you're going to start working on Microsoft Project. You're welcome to continue working in the week 4 workshop area if you weren't finished. I will continue to provide feedback. You can continue to provide additional help for your peers in that area if you'd like. And if you post what you think you're going to be posting for your week 8 MS project assignment, if you post that in week 4, I will give you feedback and I can predict a grade. And the reason I do this is not to have you go out and make more work. It's to keep you from endlessly trying to perfect your MS project file if it's really not going to make a major difference in your grade. So many people start working on their final paper this week, if you haven't already started putting it together. And there are a few things that have worked well for previous learners in these classes. The first thing is make sure that you get the template for the week 8 final paper, and you're in Engage. It'll tell you where that template is. When you move, sometimes it really helps to start over from scratch with a brand new template, and this is a great time to do it. You may have mistakes in your earlier templates, formatting mistakes that you really don't want to carry over. So many people move their previous assignments over in very small chunks. And when they copy and paste, they use the keep text only, and that will bring it in as whatever the normal text is in the new document. And then you can actually go back in and tag your headings with the appropriate heading style. And it really helps with your organization to make sure that you're almost starting from scratch on formatting, and that can be a good thing. The other thing is that I've actually seen papers turned in week 8 that still had the instructor comments that had just been moved over to the final paper. If you do move them over, and some people do, make sure that you erase those, that you delete those before you turn in your final paper in week 8. Another thing that you'll need to do is that during week 1, if you remember, the very first assignment was to write the project environment and needs analysis. And we actually had you write that in a graphic organizer to get used to kind of a process for writing. And you'll need to change that to an APA narrative format, just like all of your other sections are in. So a lot of people find that it's easier, rather than moving everything all at once and then going back and revising, is to revise each section as they move it to their paper. And I was talking to some students tonight, and they said that they were noticing big changes in their writing between week 4 and week 1 or week 1 and 2. And that their writing was much tighter now and much more effective. So here are some things that you could do going back to your earlier work to tighten it up now that you are on a roll. First of all, go through and check and make sure everything is in past tense throughout the entire paper. Get rid of your passive voice. Don't be afraid to say, I did such and such, which turns it into active voice, or our team did this. Evaluate the topic sentences for each paragraph. Oftentimes, when we write a paragraph, we work our way down to a conclusion at the end of the paragraph. And those frequently are just fabulous topic sentences because they really are the whole point of what you wanted to say in that paragraph. So if you write that way, go through and take those great sentences and move them into the beginning of the paragraph as the topic sentence. In terms of your examples, I have seen such progress in really getting specific about the examples that you're using. It's important for me to be able to tell which industry you're in, which kind of project you're doing, and what the really important elements are in yours. So make your examples even more specific. Focus in on your rationale for why you chose this particular input rather than others, or why the way that it worked out was an important element to your project. And also cut back on your generic concept information. If you read through your paper and it sounds like you're just regurgitating the PMBOK guide or Schwalbe or someone else that we've all read, reduce that. It's important to explain to us which concept you're talking about and what element of that particular concept was really important to your specific example. But it's not important to educate us on the PMBOK guide. So you can cut back perhaps on some of that generic concept information. So speaking of that, here are some potential ways to really waste time when you're putting together your final paper. One thing is hyperlinking. We use the navigation pane on the left side rather than the hyperlinks that are actually in the paper. And especially if for some reason your paper were printed, the hyperlinks would be useless. So it isn't a value added time spent for you to add hyperlinks in your paper. Another thing is endless wordsmithing. I am so impressed with the writing that I'm seeing, and you are competent writers. Most of what I see come through in the weekly assignments is well structured sentences. So don't do endless wordsmithing to try to, it's not poetry. Another issue is APA formatting on the reference page. If you didn't get to where that's easy for you by now, congratulations. By the time I finished my doctorate, I wasn't really good at it either until I did my my final dissertation, and then I got good at it. But what really made me so good at it was correcting other people's. And so spend a little time looking at your peers, seeing if you can recognize issues in APA formatting and help each other out And I will definitely help out with APA formatting for reference pages if you're having issues. But really, with APA formatting, if you didn't get it, getting it before you graduate is probably not going to be the best use of your time. Another thing that's a waste of your time is copying and pasting generic images from sources. The point of these papers is how you applied the concepts to your particular scenario. And so whenever we see a generic image, we ignore it. And the same goes for creating graphics that only contain generic project management ideas. The graphics that you're creating should talk about your scenario and how you applied those ideas, not just list all of the outputs for a particular process. That's not a good use of your time creating those graphics. And finally, make sure that you get your questions answered. Ask the instructor forum is in every week, and make sure that you check that for the instructor who's adding things. There's also the wiki in the resources section below week 8, which can be a very quick way to find an answer if you're working at 2 a.m. Another thing is to just email or text your instructor. We really do want to be available to answer those questions. So have an excellent week 5. I'll look forward to talking with you and seeing you online. And finally, this is what I did last week. I went and spent some time with my new grandson, Eddie. Have a great week.